Thank you so much for having me. My name is Tyler Muffley. I'm a urogynecologist at Denver Health and Hospital Authority, and I work with residents from the University of Colorado School of Medicine OBGYN program. The workforce we have and the workforce we need. This is a map showing the growth of the FPMRS physicians. In 1979, 16 individuals attended the first meeting of the American Urogynecologic Society. 40 years later, over 2,300 individuals from all over the world attend the AUG's annual meeting. We compiled a database of U.S.-based FPMRS in the base year of 2018 by searching for and merging female pelvic medicine and reconstructive surgery data from three sources as of April 1st, 2018. 1. The American Board of Medical Specialties. 2. The National Provider Identifier Index. And 3. The American Urogynecologic Society Physician Membership List. The ACGME and NRMP FPMRS fellowship match statistics were used, and I wrote the majority of the code in the programming language R, and it's available for free, open source on github.com. First, we'll look at the supply of FPMRS and who we are. FPMRS's total headcount numbered around 1,269 board-certified FPMRS, with 281 being trained in urology. The number of FPMRS in the Millennial, Generation X, and Baby Boomer generations is nearly split into half, with Generation X and half Millennials plus Baby Boomers. With the youngest of the Baby Boomers about 15 years away from retirement, meeting the needs of all demographics in a workforce is becoming a growing challenge. 45% of FPMRS surgeons are females, and this is rapidly rising. 16 years is the mean number of years of practice for an FPMRS physician. Most FPMRS call urban counties home, and in all, FPMRS physicians practice in every state except North Dakota and Wyoming. This is not the geographic representation of urogynes, but it's the closest thing that I could find in real life to visualizing where urogynes are in the country. This is a map of Chipotle's, the Mexican grill that's delicious, and urogynes are found across the country and mainly in urban areas just like Chipotle's. There's more urogynes and Chipotle's on the coast than in the heartland. The number of FPMRS fellowships doubled from 2008 to 2018. Next, over this time period, FPMRS fellowship positions increased from 27 to 59 fellowship positions per year. Urogyne has gone from producing the fewest fellows per year to producing the second most behind MFM. If the current trajectory of increases in the number of subspecialty FPMRS physicians continues, coupled with projected aging population growth, the growth in overall supply will likely exceed the growth of the population starting 10 years from now. The bottom line is that we are going to almost double the ratio of FPMRS to the number of women, increasing competition and decreasing surgical volumes if we continue to increase the number of fellowships and fellows at this historical rate. These results imply that to achieve equilibrium of supply and demand, there would likely need to be a combined decrease in the FPMRS fellow growth rate and an increase in the demand for their services. Over the next 30 years, the adult female population is projected to grow from 69 million to 94 million women, an increase of 36%. This census pyramid shows the female U.S. population in 1980, 2000, and 2050 based on U.S. Census Bureau estimates. We can see the pyramid shape flatten to a column shape as the baby boomers age significantly. A state-by-state population pyramid demonstrates that most populations have a bump in the baby boomers population. There are a few notable exceptions. These include high fertility states like Utah and Idaho, reflected in their proportionally larger young populations, as well as Washington, D.C.'s urban profile with a sizable population of residents in their 20s and 30s. These may not be the ideal locations for future fellowships or future practices. We created several maps. This first map is of geodesic distance, or as the crow flies, from FPMRS providers. And while this looks nice, it's not truly helpful or accurate. The next set of maps that we put together included driving distance and showed the number of miles from an FPMRS. Approximately 90+% of FPMRS physicians practice in urban settings, and FPMRS are needed in rural settings. However, it's well known that physicians do not preferentially practice where the need is greatest. Simply adding more FPMRS fellows to the workforce is not likely to significantly reduce geographic disparities in access to care. In conclusion, to keep the same ratio of women to FPMRS physicians, the growth of fellowships should be curtailed, and a plan for growth of the specialty should be undertaken by AUGS. Tanaz, thank you so much for having me. I truly appreciate it, and I'm so excited to chat with your fellows about research today. The title of my talk is going to be Crowdsourcing and Healthcare Access Research. We'll go through some of the data and how we got it for this study. And the fact is that there is no national clearinghouse of physician data in the United States. We have a fragmented system that relies on hospital-level review, state boards for disciplinary and credentialing actions, and federations that are loosely gathering data at the national level. Individual physician data is rarely shared among these levels, and even less often with research. Physician workforce for FPMRS gets at the question of who will take care of the older woman in the future. Obstetrics and gynecology has typically been focused on the younger pregnant women with the immediate needs for delivery or hysterectomy. Increasing evidence indicates a current and growing shortage of FPMRS availability to serve our nation's rural populations as well. A shortage of FPMRS is a critical component of the crisis in healthcare workforce because only FPMRS are uniquely trained and qualified to provide certain necessary lifestyle-saving procedures. Therefore, when I wrote this series of articles, I hope to publish papers with an accurate and actionable workforce data to determine exactly what constitutes an FPMRS shortage area and subsequently where these areas exist. These are some of the current public sources of data on individual physicians. They are a mix of government and industry data sources that provide information mainly to patients. Understandably, most of the groups are quite opaque and unwilling to share their larger data sets with the public. CertificationMatters.org is a website from the ABMS that looks at board certification. DocInfo.org website is from the Federation of State Medical Boards and answers the question, does my physician have an active state license? Healthgrades.com is qualitative patient comments about physicians, and Doximity.com is more physician-to-physician communication and provides information and detailed demographics about physicians. Unfortunately, Doximity.com recently changed their terms of service, and we recently received a cease and desist order from them about not taking their data. Studies on physician workforce have typically been done in the past with data from the AMA Physician Master File. This is the Tesla or Cadillac or Lexus of individual physician data. The AMA aggregates data on physicians as they train and sells it later on for marketing as well as for research. The data is typically very expensive and also very complete. I work at a county hospital and I do not have grant funding. The Urogyne data set for 1,269 urogynecologists would have cost me around $5,000 if I were to purchase it from the AMA. The NPI data file is the poor man's AMA data set. NPI data is free to download to the public, and most of the data is entered at the time the physician started their training and is updated rarely or when they change jobs. The NPI is a unique number similar to a social security number that every physician needs to have to practice. NPI data covers location, self-described specialty, dates of NPI enumeration that can be a proxy for the start of training, and gender. A new NPI file is published by the CMS on a monthly basis. I wanted to use the NPI data and augment it with several other sources of data to bring in physician age, confirm physician specialty, physician practice setting, etc. This was turning out to be quite a bit of data, and the data kept growing and growing and turned out to be very hard to be accessed in a timely fashion by me, one person. So to get the other data, we had 4 options. 1. Copy and paste data and do hand searches. 2. Write computer code to scrape the data we needed from other databases. Involve a medical student with weeks of mind-numbing copy and pasting. Access an API or a computer-to-computer request system to get the individual data. Or 4, crowdsource the data requests. We ended up using all 4 of these options for this study to get a complete data set and to confirm what we had. The first strategy, copy and paste, is slow and prone to errors. Most data is spread across multiple web pages and it's clumsy to get to, though we did do that sometimes. Writing code to scrape a website is pretty simple for a programmer. Unfortunately, I'm not an expert programmer, and I lay awake at night thinking about how to remove a 1 kilogram size uterus through the vagina instead of how to write code. In this journey, I did learn how to write code in the program language R, and with a lot of trial and error, I was able to write some code that could run a browser that requested data and stored the data and move on to the next. Before I learned software development, API sounded like a kind of beer. I learned how to use an API or application programmatic interface because it was offered for multiple large data sets like the Census Bureau and Google.
To speak plainly, an API is the messenger that takes requests and tells a system what you want to do, and then returns the response back to you. To give you a familiar example, think of an API as a waiter in a restaurant. Imagine you're sitting at the table with a menu of choices to order from, and the kitchen is the part of the system which will prepare your order. What's missing is the critical link to communicate your order to the kitchen and deliver your food back to your table. That's where the waiter, or API, comes in. The waiter is the messenger that takes your request or order and tells the system, in this case the kitchen, what to do, and then delivers the response back to you, in this case, food.
This is an example of an API that I wrote to interface with the Physician Compare database and the NPI database to bring in the most recent data. The fourth option for data gathering is crowdsourcing, and we utilized Amazon Mechanical Turk. Amazon Mechanical Turk is a crowdsourcing website for businesses to hire workers to perform discrete on-demand tasks that computers are currently not able to do. It is a type of artificial intelligence. The name comes from an 18th century chess-playing device. Challengers competed against the Turk, believing they were competing against an automated machine, when in fact they were competing against a person hidden inside. Hits are human intelligence tasks. These are oftentimes called microservices. It can be saying, is this a shoe or a sock? It can be looking up a person and determining what their subspecialty is. Workers complete the tasks. They're paid by Amazon.com, and Amazon takes a 20% commission. Requesters post hits for workers to complete. Amazon Mechanical Turk is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and because there are thousands of Turkers to work on a single hit or project, these projects can get done extremely quickly. Instead of doing all that work myself or having a medical student help me, we utilized the power of the crowd, and this prevented burnout for us. We asked for workers to address one residency program, look them up, and transcribe the residents.